if you feel the excitement or the energy to create something and you push it off, or you're like, well, I can't until this time, you're going to miss the wave. And that is truly the secret sauce for me of being able to produce a lot really quickly. When I feel the excitement, when I feel the motivation, I jump in and I make it happen right then. And that's where a task that would take me 8 hours, I can do in 1. It's really that simple. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the show. Today, I want to talk about working faster and how to find your flow with this. I feel like I'm naturally very good at this. I've been good at this from a young age, and it's how I'm able to produce a lot of stuff really quickly. People always ask me, whether it's just friends or people who work with me as clients, they're like, how do you do that so quickly? I think most people know that I write my books really quickly because I channel them. So most of my books I've written in 2 days. We'll do a whole book launch in like a month. I'll create a whole course in a couple of days. I just finished a course last week. It took me 3 days. And I've generated a lot of content really quickly. I tend to do that because I've learned how to work and flow with myself. It's still something that I bump up against, and I want to talk about some of those blocks because I think that's the reason why a lot of people don't work in that fashion. But I want to talk about how I do that and some tips I have for getting more work done faster. So the foundation of this is really just understanding what your ideal flow is. So we're looking at what are the highest energy times for you. We're looking at when are you most creative. We're looking at when is your brain most focused and all the factors that go into that. So one of those factors is going to be environment. Knowing for yourself, are you the kind of person that focuses better, you get more in a flow state when you are at a coffee shop, when you are in a pretty environment, when you are in a space where there are 0 distractions around you, when you're in more of a cave kind of space, when there's more light around you, when there's nature around you, when it's a little bit darker, when it's moodier? Environment is the first piece because that's setting up the conditions for our energy body to actually get into flow state. And that's what all of this is. We work quickly when we are in flow. The slow way is to logically force it out of us or to try and pull energy out of us. The faster way is to allow the energy itself to move through us. So we are connecting in with an actual excitement with what's in front of us. And we're also connecting in with the flow state. And when you learn how to do this with things that you enjoy, then you can start to do it with things that you don't enjoy. So obviously I've talked a lot about how I don't like to do things related to taxes. I mean, I don't do my own taxes, obviously, but just organizing things, pulling all the documents to send to my accountant, to the team. I don't like doing any of that logistic stuff. I'm not an organized person in that way. So I need to get in a flow state so that I can do all of that really quickly. So that's what we're setting the foundation for. So the first thing is knowing your environment. Like what setting, what condition works best for you. I know for me, different settings work better for me depending on the type of work I'm doing. So if I'm doing something that is more creative in the realm of like if I'm channeling something, if it's a really big project, if I am doing really deep work, like if it's working on a book or anything kind of channeled or bringing in some deeper reflections, more philosophical, I do not want anyone in my space. I do not want anyone around me. I need to have my own environment. I mean, even dealing with my cat's energy sometimes throws me off, but I can't have anyone around me. I want to be alone. This is why when I write a book, I go away to like a remote location and no one talks to me for 3 days. That's how I do it. And I get it done. If I want to get in a flow state with something that's more using my left brain, more organizational, more list-ish, less creative and more kind of doing or responding, I actually will work best if I go somewhere like a coffee shop where I can kind of just get in the vibe. I can plop into the frequency stream of everybody around me who's working, right? That's a hack. That's a big reason why a lot of people work well around other people. They're riding the energy wave, that vibrational momentum wave of everybody else working around them, and it makes it easier for them to focus because they can just kind of lean into that energy that's already flowing in the environment. Hey, we're all working, we're all focused. And for me, It is so hard for me to focus on things that are more like I'm responding to emails, organizing things, if we're designing things for products, like that kind of left brain stuff for me is really hard for me to focus on because I don't naturally orient there. My brain doesn't like love it. But once I get in the flow with it, I can do it really quickly and I do enjoy it. So I like to lean into other people's energy around me who can focus in that way. So going to a coffee shop works really well for me. So I'm just giving that as an example for you to figure out with the different types of work you have, which environments best support you in getting in that flow state. And I just gave 2 examples. It's actually like a lot more nuanced for me. Depending on what I'm doing, I know even just what room of my house I'm going to do better in. I know if sitting outside in my backyard under the sun near the grass is going to do better for me versus if I'm indoors and it's kind of moodier. There's some work that is better for me. Like I'm inside, I like to feel kind of in a cave. I like it a little more darker. There's other work where I want to be out in nature, right? So just knowing all those different buckets for you and where you work best. I mean, for me, I know I work really well on a plane. No distractions, but lots of people who aren't focused on me. So I can kind of utilize that energy everybody is in, that frequency wave of this kind of focused, and there are people working, there are people just kind of in their space of meditation, whether they're watching a movie or reading a book or just zoning out or having fun. It's almost like this neutralized energy that makes it easier for me to zone all the way in. Now, part of environment is going to be boundaries. It's going to be how many people can contact you. It's going to be how many energy cords are tugging at you. A big reason why people do not do work quickly is because they're not focused. And the main reason we're not focused is because we have a lot of energy in our energy field pulling us in a million directions. So people will think about this in their everyday life, like, I have a lot on my mind. Well, it's a lot more complicated than that. It's not just that you have a lot on your mind. Okay, you might have a lot on your mind. And that's where we build the skill of being able to move that energy out, of being able to compartmentalize, of being able to put it aside, right? Meditation, energy work has helped me a lot with that because I used to be the person that could never get the stuff in my brain to the side. And now I 100% can. I developed that skill. It is a skill. It's not just something, oh, I'm like this. You've got to learn the skill. That's the way it is. So there's that, but what's really going on is we have cords pulling us in every kind of direction. So people who are more psychically aware and psychically sensitive will notice that they feel like they have way more ADHD because they're really aware of every little person tugging on them. So for me, if a friend is thinking about me, I literally can feel it as if someone is literally tapping on my shoulder. When the spirits are talking to me, I'm like, I'm trying to focus. Someone's tapping on my shoulder. Someone's ringing my doorbell energetically in my brain. When we're thinking about that person we're worried about, when there's 800 tasks that we haven't finished and we're trying to focus on this one, all that's hanging out in our brain, all of those are cords connected to us. Those are all energies clogging our fields in our auric bubble and in our actual brain that we are feeling, and it makes it so that we cannot think clearly. And this cord is lighting up because someone's thinking about it. And so our attention goes there and our attention goes there. That is what's going on when people cannot focus. And so you want to think about, what are the things I'm doing first to clear my field? I'm telling you, it is night and day difference for me. Every morning, I have my morning routine. I move, I eat breakfast, and then I go and I sit down into my meditation / energy work. It's all the same. I have one time a day. I sit down, like for me, well, sometimes I have more than one, but in my regular work day, I have one space because I need it to be efficient where I'm dropping in, I'm meditating, I'm clearing my energy field, I'm connecting with my soul, I'm connecting with my spirit guides, and it's this one chunk of time. That's why we made the membership. So in Next Level You, all of those are designed, it's to be that exact time you need. You just press play, you follow along, you do the thing. That's what I do every day. And if I do not do that, my energy is so scattered for the rest of the day. If I do not do that, I cannot focus. If I do not do that, I do not get in flow state. It is literally the difference between me being able to produce a lot really quickly, easily, fast, done, I'm clear-headed, and me feeling like I'm pulled in a million directions, me responding to everybody else all the time, everybody else's to-dos, me thinking about this and that and this and that, me not feeling inspired. It's night and day difference. So I cannot recommend enough having a practice to clear your energy fields to pull all of your energy into your body, to get focused on how you want to feel, to set your vibration for the day, and to plug your consciousness and your mental state into a specific frequency, into a state of flow. So in that time, I pull all of my energy into the task I'm going to focus on that day, whatever it is. And I marinate in that energy, and it pulls my whole energy body to be fully in alignment with whatever that task is. And that is how I stay concentrated. So I'm not hearing the doorbells getting vibrationally rung in my field from everybody else needing everything else from me. That's the difference. So energetically, that is a really important thing to set up in terms of environment so that you can focus and do work quickly. Logistically, boundaries. And this is like the biggest thing, I think, for everybody. People are slow. They can't focus because they don't have boundaries, because they reply to people all day long. They check social media platforms just whenever they feel called to. They don't have clear times when they check their email, when they check their Instagram, when they check their LinkedIn. They're just kind of responding to everybody else. They don't have clear times when they're communicating with people. Because we have so much access to each other so readily, people really take advantage of that. And they waste half their day replying to texts or replying to team messages. Instead of, if there's a clear meeting for something, everybody needs to be organized. They need to bring all of their questions, all of their energy to that call, hash it all out, and then it's done for that hour. And then everybody else can move on and focus on other things until the next time you come together. So I really want to highlight this boundaries piece. I have boundaries with my social media platforms in terms of, I know the specific times each day. I check each, and I don't check them in between. I don't. And because that's a rule for myself, I'm not thinking about it in between, so I can fully focus. As long as it's an option, I'm going to be thinking about it. It's in my field. It's hanging out in the back of my mind. If it's not an option, it's not hanging out there, right? So we have boundaries with our social media platforms. We have boundaries with our to-do list. What is on my to-do list for today? Do I go in feeling really clear? I know exactly what's happening today. The only way I can do that and actually honor that to-do list in a boundaried way is if, for me, I have planned out my week / my month. So I know all the tasks I need to do, and I know when they're getting done. And as soon as they're in my calendar and they're getting done, it's off my mental plate, because I have an agreement with my calendar. If it's on there, it's happening. I don't just not do it. It's happening. If I put things on my calendar and I made a habit, I'm not showing up to it, then when I put things on my calendar to try and organize for myself, I would not experience it coming off my mental plate, because it doesn't really mean anything at that point. So you have to make it mean something if something's on your calendar. So because I have that commitment to myself, if it's on my calendar, it's happening. The second it goes in my calendar, it's done. It's already done. It's off my mental plate, and I can fully focus on the task at hand. And because I know everything has a slot where it's going to go, that means that today, when on my to-do list, I'm only handling this and this and this, I'm not worried, because that and that and that are going to get handled tomorrow or the next day. I already know it's getting done. But if you are always worried about, when is this going to happen, or when I'm going to finish this, or I don't have time for that, then you're always going to be anxious. You're going to be thinking about it. That door is going to be open in your consciousness, and you will not be able to get in an actual flow state. To get in that flow state, which is where we work our fastest, we're in surrender. We're fully present. It's just about a depth of being present. You've got to drop in. You've got to let everything else go. So if you're hanging on to all the, but I'm thinking about this, and when is that going to happen, and what about that? You cannot drop into that state of flow because you're hanging on. Right? Think about flow. Think about flowing through a river. You are free. You're not attached to anything. The second you're thinking or worrying, you're attached to the side of the riverbank and you cannot flow down it. That is the difference. We have to let ourselves just fully surrender to what we are in currently. And when we fully surrender to it and we have nothing else on our mind and we're not attaching ourselves to anything else, we move really quickly. So boundaries with yourself, with your to-do list. If something pops up, it's not happening today. Sorry, not happening today. But what a lot of people do is new things pop up and then they adjust what they're doing in that moment for that thing. And then the whole structure gets messed up. So what I do is in my calendar, I have time for things to respond to. I'm already planning for it. There's going to be random things thrown my way. When am I handling that? I have a bigger chunk once a week, and then I have a little slot of time each day where I'm accounting for if quick things come in from, there's always stuff when you're running a business where it's like last minute, I need to fix that or that came in. So I always have that chunk of time in my day that I'm planning for. So if it's coming through while I'm in the middle of something, I can be like, okay, cool, it's going to get done later. And then I don't have to hold it in my field, so I can be fully present in whatever I'm currently doing. So boundaries with your calendar, boundaries with social media, boundaries with people in your life. I think, as a business owner, this has been one of the biggest things. I'm not going to lie and say it's super easy, but we have to be really clear about our boundaries with the people that we are working with, that we communicate with, to say when we're available and when we're not. And so I think it's really important to be really clear about how often we respond to communication. If there's a certain type of communication, what is the best way to deliver that to me, right? So when people are onboarded with me, it's very clear training of, hey, you don't just throw something for me to approve whenever you want. Like, it all gets gathered and all at the same time. We're delivering everything to me. So it's really fast for me to go through it one time and then move on. But what people do is they're so used to living in response that they just throw things to each other in little 1% increments. And then everybody is just doing 1% increment back. And they're wasting all this time going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. When if somebody had just completed kind of a whole thought process and brought it forward, somebody could review and give feedback on the whole thought process at once. And then our mental state is not being pulled back and forth between two different things all day, right? So if I'm working on a project and someone on my team is like, maybe they're helping to edit a sales page that day off wherever they're working, and I'm working on my project and they're like, hey, what do you think about this color? They're sending that to me like before I get going. And I turn from what I'm doing and I go, oh yeah, I like this. And then what about that? They're like, cool, thanks. And they go off and work. And then 10 minutes later, do you like this verbiage or this verbiage? I turn again. Oh, I think this one. And this keeps going all day long. You know what's happened is I have not completed my work. I've gotten cut off every 10 minutes. I've not gotten in a flow state. And it's actually taken that person a lot longer too, because what they could do is gather all of their questions, focus on working on something else, deliver all of the questions to me, get them all answered at the same time, and then just block out a chunk of maybe an hour of their time and handle everything all at the same time. It's all of the back and forth that is wasting a lot of people's time. And so we have to learn to fight the urge to just throw what we have in that moment at whoever's in front of us. It's kind of like when people send you a text and you're like, and then they text again and again and again, and you're watching as they're talking themselves through what they texted you about. And by the end of the, 8th text, you're like, glad you figured that out for yourself. Guess you didn't really need to involve me, right? It's kind of that kind of energy. But this is a really important maturity skill. It's a really important communication skill. It's a really important business skill. And I find that a lot of people, because of this culture with social media and instant gratification, and we can talk to each other all the time, especially like the younger generations, they just throw their energy everywhere. I need this now. It's not complete. And it pulls everybody else out of their work. And so we have to be aware of when people are doing that and say no. Part of that might just be, hey, well, I don't look at my messages until this time, and I look at all of it together. Part of it might be, hey, if you have questions, you can gather all of them and you can have one meeting with me and we can answer it all right there, right? But we have to have boundaries strong enough to train ourselves and potentially other people around how we can be so much more productive if we are fully focused on whatever we're in front of instead of half-assing every little thing. And I think that a lot of people don't plan ahead enough to do that. So in order for you to do that, you have to be thinking ahead. You have to be thinking about, if you're working with other people, what they're going to need and how far in advance they're going to need it, and working backward from there. People will deliver things to each other like right before it's needed. And then that pulls whoever's involved, out of what they're doing, right? And this is something I know for me, I have had to work on with my team. My team's changed a lot over the years. Like, and I know every business owner has to work on this, like talk to people about, hey, we have to be realistic about like how much runtime do you need? This is how much runtime I need. This is how I best receive communication, because most people are only thinking about their own POV, right? We're thinking about what we need to work, and it is a superpower to think about what other people need. And if you learn to do that, you'll actually get very far in your business. I will say, I think that has gotten me, what's one of the skills that has gotten me the furthest in my career is thinking about how is this person going to best receive communication? When is the best time for me to reach out to them, and how for me to actually hear from them? If I'm trying to like piecemeal things, people do not respond well, and it served me really well. But it's going to be really important for you to feel like your energy can stay concentrated and you can feel focused and you can stay satisfied in your workday and with whatever you're trying to create. We feel really resentful when we feel like other people are taking our time. And I know a lot of people who have these big goals. They want to write a book. They want to make a film. They want to build some project. And they have these big goals, and you ask them what's blocked them from completing it or working on it. And often the reason might be, I just haven't gotten around to it. But then you ask why, and often it's, well, I had to do this and I had to do that and I had to do this. We've got to get clear on what are our priorities, and we have to honor those with our boundaries, because the excuse really tends to be, this person needed this from me, and then this person needed that from me, and then this person needed this from me. And what happens is we start to subconsciously or consciously feel like everybody else is taking our time. And so everybody else's needs and everybody else's to-do lists are more important than what we need. And we start to build that resentment in our system. And we build so much resentment in our system in relation to whatever we're trying to create, that we actually block our channel from actually dropping into the flow state when it's finally time to do the thing. I know this has happened to me. Like, have you ever had a plan for a project and you feel like everybody else's needs and to-do lists are getting in front of you doing that thing? And then you're getting irritated. And then by the time you actually sit down to do it, you just feel blocked. You're like, I can't even think. I can't even focus. Because here's what happens. To get in the flow state, you've got to honor when the energy is coming through, and you lean into it right then. If you feel the excitement or the energy to create something and you push it off, or you're like, well, I can't until this time, you're going to miss the wave. And that is truly the secret sauce for me of being able to produce a lot really quickly. When I feel the excitement, when I feel the motivation, I jump in and I make it happen right then. And that's where a task that would take me 8 hours, I can do in 1. It's really that simple. If I'm trying to force a book out of me, I'm using my logical brain. I have to think about it. I've got to kind of like force the energy. I'm pulling, I'm trying. If I want to write a book that's actually in flow, if I'm feeling inspired, right? I just sit down and I allow that to channel through me. This happens to me with content literally all the time, where I will write down, I'm writing down all these downloads and content ideas all day long, and I need to like immediately make it. And if I wait too long, what will happen is by the time I get to record it, I'll go back and I'll see which one of these do I still have the energy for. And I would say about 75% of them I don't have energy for anymore. Like, it passed. So then I just go with the 25% I do feel that energy and excitement around, and I move forward from there. But with big projects, when I feel the urge, like it's happening now, like I'm getting ideas, I'm getting thoughts, I've got to do it right then and there. And so I make sure I allow for that with my schedule. I have a little more wiggle room than most people because I work for myself. But I've learned that sometimes I have to just honor what I need in terms of, if I need to move something, I need to move something. If I need to rearrange something, I need to rearrange something. And I think that's the other side of the boundaries, because I have learned that what was happening for me was I was getting so worried about not wanting to mess up anybody else's calendar that I would get the energy for a book or a course or a big project. And I'd be like, well, I don't have time until 3 weeks from now because everybody else needs me to do these things on these days. But then 3 weeks from now would come and it didn't feel alive for me anymore. So things kept getting pushed off. And then I felt frustrated because I wasn't delivering. So the in-between for me there is if the energy is alive, I just sit down and I start like writing whatever's coming through so at least I don't lose it. But it's a very real thing where energy will drop in, like a transmission will drop in. And this is with whatever you do. If you're a dancer, if you're an artist, if you're a creative, if you are an engineer, like the energy, the download is going to come in and you're going to feel that as I'm starting to think about it. It's popping in my mind. I'm feeling physical energy. I'm feeling excitement for it. And you've got to follow that right then and there. I have learned that I've had to voice that to people in my life. Like there are times when it's 10 p.m. and the spark comes and I'm like, I need to write this right now. I need to make this right now. But that is when the frequency is so alive and it's so pure. And if you can bring that forward right in that moment, that's when the content is going to be most magnetic. It is such a stark contrast. I know for myself, if I'm feeling excited about something and it's feeling alive and I record it, it is received and felt so much more strongly. It's received so much better than if I get the download, I'm excited, and I wait 5 weeks and then I record it then, because I'm trying to pull the energy. I'm trying to think about it. I'm literally not in that magnetic state. I'm not in that channeled state. And it's that channeled state that allows us to just let it all flow out, have the whole thing feel completed, and we don't have to force it. And that's where it's going to be most potent and people are going to feel it. I think most people can recognize the difference between content that was created in a flow state or a channeled state and content that was coming from somebody's logical mind. When we are trying to impact people, we're hitting them with a vibration, right? People can feel a frequency, they can feel an energy. It's raw, it's pure, it's authentic. And what happens when we are able to just honor that flow in the current moment is we are transmitting that authentic frequency instead of trying to pull it out of us in an inauthentic way, because it changes the verbiage we use, it changes the energy we're in, it changes our excitement, and then it's received totally differently. So that's just one example. But I really think that when it comes to doing things quickly, you've got to know environments that are best for you. You've got to know your boundaries. You've got to know when you work best. Are you more of a morning person? Are you more of a night person? When you're doing deep work, do you like to do that early on? Do you need physical things to happen beforehand? Like for me, I think about my morning practices with movement, with meditation, with energy work, with how I eat. All of that is part of my job to me because I'm basically just preparing myself to show up, right? So think about yourself. What kind of morning do you need to get in that flow state? Do you do best when you listen to binaural beats? Do you do best when you go on a walk and you kind of pump yourself up? Do you do best when you listen to an inspirational podcast? Like, know what's going to get you in that state. For me, whenever I'm driving to like a podcast with a guest, I always will listen to other podcasts that are really good because it gets me in the frequency flow of like a high frequency conversation. And so I will basically use these external anchors to shift my energy to be in alignment with what I'm about to do, right? Visualizations, listening to things, music, that all shifts your energy field to get you in the zone. Think about a professional athlete and their routine to get in the zone so that they can channel when they're out there on the court. That's all channeling, right? They're just moving with instinct. That's so much of why professional athletes are so good at what they do. Obviously, there's so much like skill and practice involved, but there's also a high level of instinct, right? That's coming where they're in that flow state and they're doing things to get themselves in the zone. I find that most people nowadays do not do anything to get themselves in the zone. We just show up. We just roll out of bed. We just show up and we just think we're going to give our A game, and we're not. When you take that extra 5 minutes, 3 minutes, maybe 20 minutes to vibrationally prep, it comes through really quickly. I was telling somebody the other day, like, I think most people will be surprised if they watch what I was actually doing on weekends when I go away to write my books, or even on days when I'm making my course, because I think people think I wake up and I get to work and I'm writing nonstop, for 2 days, or with courses, I'm waking up and I'm just recording all day. I'm taking 50% of my day, if not 75% of my day, to just get myself in the vibrational state to write 70,000 words in 6 hours. Like, I'm taking so much time to vibrationally prepare because then it flows out of me and I don't have to stop. I don't have to think. It's just coming straight through. But if I rolled out of bed and I was operating from scarcity and I'm thinking, oh my God, I only have, 12 hours to write a whole book. I better get started. I'm trying to force it. It's not coming out and it's going to take me way longer than if I just spend the day doing what I know I need to do. I meditate, I drop in, pretty much just meditating on the energy. And then I know it's time, I'm ready, and I can do in 3 hours what would probably take somebody who wasn't doing it that way like 48, if not longer. So I'm sharing this because I want to encourage you to really get clear on what allows you to be in flow state. And I want you to set the boundaries you need to allow that for yourself. And I want you to advocate for yourself because I do think a big part of this can be pushback from other people. There is so much in our culture about, well, I can't. I don't have time. Well, I can't do that because this person's schedule. And like, I hear you from a spiritual lens. I will tell you what the guides always say. They go, that is the lesson. The lesson is to look at all of the things in your 3D reality that you can use as excuses and for you to learn to transmute that and to work with that. So if you want to stay in that 3D consciousness, then fine. Those are your limitations and you live with your limitations and you can't because this person and that person. When you step into sovereignty, when you step into living from a higher level of consciousness, when you are dedicated to learning your spiritual and soul lessons, you realize that things are only a limitation if we allow them to be. So the easier path for the ego, for the mind is, well, these are my limitations. Everybody needs this from me, so I guess I have to fall into it. The more difficult path for the ego, but the easier path for the soul and where you spiritually ascend is when you say, okay, these are the things that seem like limitations or blocks in my 3D reality. And my work here is to learn how to work with this. My work here is to figure out what boundary do I need to set? How do I need to advocate for myself more? How do I need to ask for support? Where do I need to say no? Where do I need to make adjustments? Like, that is where the real spiritual lessons are. So I challenge you to look at that, where you're saying, well, I can't because of this or that. What if you could though? What if there was a solution? And when you look from that perspective, you start to realize, you know what? Maybe I could move this a little bit. If I said my priorities are going to be prioritized, what would I ask for? How would I view this differently? How would I advocate for myself? Because I do think, the hardest part about all of this for me, and it's still not like easy for me, but I have to advocate for myself so intensely. I have to set boundaries. I have to say, this is not okay. I have to say, you cannot communicate with me right now. I have to say, well, I don't really say it like that. I'm like, I cannot communicate for the next 3 days. Deal with it. I have to say, I know this is not convenient for you, but this is when I work best. I know these are weird hours, but this is when I'm doing it. So if it's going to get done, it's going to be like this. I have learned to advocate for myself in that way and adjust things and make asks. There's nothing wrong with asking if the worst you get is a no. But I think a lot of people don't ever try to make those asks, and that's why they always feel resentful. They always feel frustrated and they feel like their priorities are last on the list. But the truth of the matter is, you're the one that's making those priorities. So if you actually committed to them, what choices would you make differently? Boundaries, set up the environment, clear your mental space, clear your physical space, pull all of your energy into your body, add the momentum there, do things to get yourself in the vibe, in the zone, and then don't think. Practice just channeling it. Practice just letting it flow and trust your gut. When you start to just trust your gut, trust your intuition over your mind, you're not going to waste all this time making decisions. And when you cut out all of those decisions and all that back and forth, that's when you're going to notice things happen really, really quickly. So those are some of my top tips for getting work done faster. It's all about flow. It's all about channeling. It's all about boundaries, which is really all about self-love and self-respect. And for me, I think about what's more important, other people's little needs. Like, do you really need me to answer this email in the next, 5 minutes? No. Versus my work, my purpose, my mission here, and the things that need to be shared. And sometimes we just need to zoom out to get bigger, better perspective on what our priorities need to be in this exact moment, because not everything needs to happen right now. Things can be rearranged. So let me know if this resonated. Let me know what has helped you the most with getting into flow state. I would love to hear it. You can leave a comment on this video if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening on the podcast, leave a comment on my recent Instagram post. I love this topic, and it's always helpful to hear what helps other people just really get in the zone with their type of work and to get into their zone of genius. If you found this helpful and you want to share it to social media, you can take a screenshot, share to Instagram, and tag me at Christina the channel and tag at Multidimensional Pod. I appreciate those shares so much. And if you think this would help someone in your life, be sure to send them the link. I know I always love when my friends send me podcasts or YouTubes where they're like, oh, I think you would really resonate with this, because that's the way that spirit speaks to us and we get signs and synchronicities. That is going to be it for today's show. Thank you so much for being here with me. I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, and I'll chat with you again next time.